All right, welcome back to the channel. My name is Coach Jordan Hargrave. Today we're going to be speaking to that fear that you're the exception to being able to beat depersonalization generalization. I've got a comment here. Actually, let's read that first. This person, the user Am40, I think that's how you say it. They said that feeling like you're an exception feeling is so real. It's like your brain's rationale totally shuts off. Okay. The very first thing that I want to tell you to help you overcome this fear is that it's not your fear. Believing that you're the only one that's dealing with this is going to make this a lot worse. And I'm not saying once you realize that other people are going through this, that it's suddenly going to make this fear go away, but it's going to help. Okay. There's different layers to overcoming this. So I remember whenever I was going through depersonalization realization, and that fear came in that everybody else can beat this, but I have some unique set of symptoms that nobody else has. And there's no way everybody is experiencing it as severe as I am. I mean, I literally would look at my hands. They felt like they weren't my own hands. I would look at the material world. Everything felt fake and dreamlike. Time felt distorted. My memory was jacked up, was having severe anxiety, was having panic attacks, all kinds of irrational fears, you name it. And I just couldn't find anybody that really described it exactly like I was experiencing it. And it made me believe that I was the exception and that my brain was broken. And for a long time, I didn't even know what the symptoms were. So that's actually part of solving this is understanding what the symptoms are, which you've already scratched that off because you're here, right? Which does bring a little bit of reassurance. Okay, there's a name to this. Okay, because I remember whenever I was feeling depersonalized and derealized, I was having like 20 panic attacks a day whenever all this first started. That was the first time that I dealt with DPDR. And then I used acceptance to get rid of the symptoms. They would happen off and on for a little while, for a couple years actually. But I thought I was free. And then because I never learned how to self-regulate, I never released the tension, adrenaline, emotion in my body. I never got proper neuroscience of how my brain, body, nervous system worked to strip away fear and shame, because I didn't have proper co-regulation, because I didn't desensitize my sensory triggers, because I didn't make lifestyle adjustments. It all came back. And whenever it came back with vengeance. And I remember how overwhelming it was to think that I was recovered. And then all of a sudden the symptoms came back. And then I tried acceptance and it didn't work. And then I found distraction and that didn't work for me. I know that some people can get some temporary relief with that, which is great. But it was completely overwhelming. But anyway, the first time, that was part of how I was able to de-escalate my nervous system, is I came across a resource. It was actually for panic attacks, but it had this one little bitty line about depersonalization realization. And now looking back, now that I've been updated on kind of the neuroscience of this, I realized it actually wasn't even that good of a definition. But I saw that and I was like, oh, thank God. Oh, okay, that's what that is. But it's one thing to know that there's a definition for this. And it's an entirely different thing to know that a lot of people experience it. Okay, so let's go back to the fear that you're the exception. That was my fear. That was one of my many fears. I had the fear of permanence, the fear of going crazy. I had this fear that at some point I'd just slip out of my body or fully slip out of reality. My brain told me that maybe my first panic attack / DPDR episode was an epileptic seizure. Maybe I have epilepsy. I mean, you name it. I had the fear. But that fear of being the exception was so debilitating because it made me believe that I was hopeless. And this is also something that I hear every single day from the clients that I work with, at least initially in their recovery. Okay. Jordan, I feel like I'm the exception. I feel like I've got a unique set of symptoms that nobody else is dealing with. which means I can't recover. See, that's why that's so overwhelming, because it's connected to permanence, okay? Because if I'm the exception, then that means that I can't get out of this. And if I can't get out of this, then that means that my life is over, okay? That's why that's so debilitating for you to believe that you're the exception. But I've been doing this for 7 years. I've worked with thousands and thousands of DPDR sufferers and anxiety sufferers. And I'm telling you, this is one of the top fears that people have. I hear about it every single week when I'm working with clients. But the next thing that I'll tell you is there's a reason that this is happening, and this user alluded to it. When your body is in a state of survival, okay, it's not prioritizing thinking. Think about it like Hulk brain versus Bruce Banner brain, all right? Whenever the Hulk comes out, it's all about must destroy. That was a terrible Hulk impersonation. I'll never do that again. Okay, I probably will. But Bruce Banner, he's a scientist. He's very smart. He thinks very logically, critically, creatively, contextually. That's like your prefrontal cortex. But when your body is in a state of survival, whether it be fight, flight, or the freeze response, or sometimes all of those simultaneously, or sometimes you're pivoting back and forth from those, the priority is not thinking. Thinking is too slow. Thinking will get you eaten. Your brain is not going to rely on thinking, because in a survival context, one wrong move and you're eaten. And so what happens is there starts to be diminished functionality in your thinking brain. Logical, critical, creative, contextual thinking. It's also attentional awareness, which is interesting. Your prefrontal cortex doesn't usually completely shut down. Sometimes in moments of like extreme trauma and terror, but it's definitely compromised. Your Bruce Banner brain is compromised. And not only do you not have a lot of access to your higher executive thinking functionality, but you also go into something called catastrophic risk assessment, which means your brain is very hypervigilant right now. And it's feeding you with all these catastrophic scenarios. Because think about it. If you were fighting, fleeing, or freezing because there was, let's say, a lion, your brain being catastrophic would be very helpful. Did the lion jump over there? Did the lion jump over here? If I do this, then will the lion do this? Okay, is there a path of escape over here? The catastrophizing is a defense mechanism to ensure that you are extremely on guard and don't end up getting eaten. But you're sitting there like, I'm just trying to scroll on TikTok. Like I'm literally just trying to walk my dog. Like, I'm just trying to be with my family, and I've got all these fears here. And that's the problem, is there's so much chaos in your body and nervous system that even though there is no threat, most likely, your brain thinks that there is, and your body is stuck in a perpetual state of survival. It's going into fight, flight, freeze. Almost just ate my microphone. Let me calm down a little bit. It's going into fight, flight, freeze response, preparing for a threat, even though there is no threat there. Why is that? Well, there's a lot of factors, but it's primarily because you're experiencing sensory triggers, right? Sensory data that is similar to painful past experiences, and it's confusing your nervous system and making it believe that there's a threat in the present. And because of that, your brain has gone into catastrophic risk assessment, and it's feeding you with all these scenarios. And because there's no line, your brain has to come up with all these catastrophic scenarios based upon what you're going through and everything around you. This is especially where a lot of forms of OCD will start to form, right? Maybe, there's a butcher knife, and your catastrophic brain is like, oh God, well, what if I accidentally stab somebody, right? Or maybe you're driving and your catastrophic brain is like, well, what if I run into somebody? Or, I remember I worked at this job and I developed kind of a friendship with the plant manager of this company. And one morning I was sitting drinking my coffee, and my catastrophic brain was like, oh God, what if you lose control and you dump the coffee on his head? And I started to get really, really anxious. But Even like it's called scrupulosity, but there's a form of religious OCD where you have like obsessive, intrusive thoughts about like, well, what if I've committed the unforgivable sin and I go to hell? Um, or obsessive thoughts about God being mad at you all the time and things like that. The list goes on and on and on. Or, if I don't, what if I don't, move this object and make it in perfect symmetry? And, what if I don't clean? It's going to lead to me getting sick or something bad is going to happen, right? This is where a lot of forms of OCD can start to form, is because of this catastrophic risk assessment. It basically keeps your body stuck in a state of fight, flight, freeze, and you want to calm yourself down, so you end up feeding into it, and that's where the compulsive behaviors come in. There's not always compulsive behaviors. There's pure O2 where it's just the thoughts. But anyway, rabbit trail there. But all that I'm saying is that's why this is happening, and I want that to calm you. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to get free of this, and I want to be very clear about that. But again, we're peeling off the layers here to hopefully just calm your nervous system down enough for you to start to execute on what's going to get you out of this. So you're not the only one dealing with this, and the reason why it's happening is because your body is in a state of survival and your brain has gone into catastrophic risk assessment trying to protect you. So I hope that calmed you down a little bit, but now how are we going to get you out of this? Because that's really the solution here. So I teach my clients 5 things based on neuroscience that communicate safety to the brain, body, and nervous system. Okay, the symptoms are a distraction. The thoughts, the emotions, the behaviors, all the symptoms, they are a distraction from the root problem. The root problem, as we talked about, is that your body is in a state of survival perpetually because you're experiencing sensory triggers. And so what we need to do is we need to do things that show your body that you're safe. And there are 5 things, and I'll tell you what they are. Self-regulation. This is releasing the tension, adrenaline, and emotion from your body. Very, very, very important. The next is co-regulation. This is where you work with somebody that communicates hope to you, that builds a secure attachment relationship, that guides you through the ups and downs of recovery. If it ends up being me, that's awesome, but I don't care. Just get the help that you need. Find somebody that makes you feel safe and can generate that sense of hope and be that pillar during this process. That's actually up to 45% of recovery. People heal people. It's very, very important. The other thing is exposure. You need to face your triggers. If you avoid them, your brain thinks that they're dangerous. I also teach my clients to couple exposure with relaxation. So repeated exposure plus relaxation equals desensitization. That's really, really important. The next thing is neuroscience, getting the right information. And if you follow this channel, you're going to get a lot of that. Whenever you have the wrong information, your anxious, catastrophic brain fills in the blanks. In fact, some of you, one of the reasons why you believe that you're the exception is because you haven't had the right neuroscience. And I'm not saying that fixes everything, but once you get the right information, you can start to put a period where there was a question mark. And it starts to strip away fear from symptoms, and it starts to strip away shame from symptoms. But the last thing is lifestyle adjustments, making sure that you're taking care of your body, making sure that you're listening to your body. You're not a machine, right? Everybody has limits, and a lot of times we don't have boundaries in life for self-care, and we just drive our body into the ground. I see this all the time with my clients, and I know that was me too. We're not prioritizing sleep and nutrition and boundaries and self-care. It's very, very important. And what happens is the more that you do things that show your body that you are safe, the more that you will leave the threat responses of fight, flight, freeze response. And you will indirectly get those symptoms that are associated with those states of survival, including DPDR, to shut off. See, DPDR are really dissociative symptoms. They are there to separate you. Why are they there to separate you? Well, because there's overwhelm in your body and life, and your brain's like, okay, I'll help you. It's like a circuit breaker. It's trying to protect you. It's a defense mechanism. It's technically, DPDR is technically designed to mitigate the pain of being eaten by a lion, because if you're numb and dissociated, you're not going to feel it as much. But the mistake that people make with DPDR or anxiety or panic attacks or any of these other symptoms is they think that they are the root problem and they're not doing things to communicate safety to their brain, body, and nervous system, which is actually what's going to get them out of this. Okay. So that's what you need to be spending your time focusing on if you really want to get to the root of this. And as your body starts to get out of this state of survival, you're going to go from being in Hulk brain to being back into Bruce Banner brain. And you'll automatically be able to see, wait a second, I'm not the exception. Wait a second, that was just an irrational fear, right? But trying to out logic this outside of getting your body out of this state of survival is not going to produce much fruit. Again, we can do things like we've done today, which is, remind you that you're not alone and show you that a lot of people experience this and give you the neuroscience of why it's happening. And that's going to help. But ultimately, we need to get your body out of this state of survival. That is the answer in the long term. If you need some help doing that, I've created a free masterclass for you. I spent about 6 months on it, literally like 11, 12 hours a day. It is going to change your life. It's called the 5 Shifts to Get Free of Anxiety, Depersonalization, Realization, and Trauma. There is a link below. Make sure to check that out. Also, click like if this helped you. Comment if you have any questions below. I've been trying to do a lot of short videos based upon your comments, and you guys are amazing. And also make sure to subscribe as well. That is it, and I hope you guys have an amazing day.